storytelling. We would sit and stand and find ways to listen to each other and to share stories about parents and regions and philosophies and love of our children and our grandchildren and our other friends. Alice Walker, whom I love, she's this writer who is also a social activist, as you must know. She was active during the civil rights movement of the 60s, living in Meridian, Mississippi, and urging people to vote. Alice Walker would probably have called Doris Sage bodacious. She probably would have called Doris Sage audacious. And so do we. You should know that I am privileged to have celebrated a friendship with a sister who was born in Oregon, as I was born in Texas. And we were determined to make this friendship work across boundary lines. Our family loved her dearly, and we appreciated the friendship so much. And so Douglas and Kathy and Michael and Daniel and Kate and Allie and Normie and Big D, thank you for making space for us to enter your mother's life and your grandmother's life and your dear grandma's life. We loved her dearly, and our lives are not going to be the same as they would have been, even if the sisters on Wednesday nights invite us to come and sit a spell. Thank you.
Some of you may know this is our congregation's second memorial service today. And some of you have heard these instructions already once today, but I'm going to share them again. We're going to have time for community remembrances, but as many of us have experienced in memorial services, when community remembrances happen, they can be sometimes longer than we would hope for. So I'm going to ask that folks keep any sharing limited, and I'm going to ask that to share that which you think you absolutely have to say. So if it's something that can hold on and you can tell on the receiving line, wait until then, but if it's something you really burning want to say about remembering Doris, please let me know. I will bring the microphone to you. I will hold on to the microphone and not give it up. And if you go a little long, please understand that my starting to move away is an act of love and not unkindness. Are we clear on all of that? So with that, if you would like to share, please raise your hand and I will bring the microphone to you.
It's wonderful to be here, and my name is Ann Tiffany, and I shared two really amazing experiences with Doris that I would like to share. We both were very close, same age. We each had a career. We parented. We grew up in middle-class families. And I think these experiences were something that we never thought that we would go through. The first has already been mentioned, and that was the School of the Americas. Doris and I went to Danbury Prison together, and thank heavens we were together. It gave us an opportunity to know each other in a very intimate, wonderful way, to share our fears. Needless to say, it was an experience that neither one of us had any idea what to expect. Doris was unflappable, as always, and she worked in the dining room, and stayed very calm. She had a wonderful roommate. We were in the same dormitory. But there was one occasion, and that was the 50th anniversary of Doris and Dan was celebrated while both of them were in prison. And that was an issue of discernment before they decided to cross the line again. So the decision was that they would make an effort to be able to call each other while they were in prison. And so it came close to the time, and Doris went to visit her counselor. We were all in the hallway, and about 10 minutes later, Doris came out of the counselor's room and slammed the door. I'd never, no one would do that in prison. It would lead them to solitary. And so she walked down the hall, and then the counselor opened the door and said, "Sage!" And she turned around and calmly walked back in. And of course, we wondered what would happen. What happened was that that phone call was made, and Doris and Dan were able to talk to each other on their 50th anniversary. The other, and I'll try to be very brief, was following this, a woman came from the Columbia Support Network to speak in Syracuse, and Doris and I decided to go to Columbia together, and we would investigate the possibility of having a sister community. So with a group, we went to Columbia and went to the city of Barranca Bermeja, which had been extremely violent. We arrived by airplane. The priest took us to the hotel, warned us not to say anything that might be overheard, etc., while we were there. And we were to go to Yondo, a small town just across the river. However, the day before, the paramilitaries had arrived in Yondo, and initially we were told we couldn't go. And then it was decided how delightful to have these two gray-haired women go across and investigate the village, let people know that we were interested in them. And we, 6 o'clock the next morning, we weren't sure this was going to work. We were really scared. But at 6 o'clock the next morning, we were at the riverside. It was a motorboat, and it's the boat that took workers across the river. So here were these two little women climbing on board, no safety equipment or anything. It was about a 15-minute trip and just overloaded with people. We did have a translator. We had breakfast there in Yondo. We spent the day there. There's a wonderful picture that I couldn't find of Doris. We went to the Columbia Police Department. We said we were tourists. We wanted to visit a small community. We were very innocent behaving. And we had this wonderful picture of Doris sitting with 8 Colombian policemen behind her and looking very, very calm, very sweet as Doris would. And it's a terrific picture, and I'm sorry I couldn't find it. But that evening, one of the people from the government there came to visit us. And we had been warned, and we certainly saw that we were followed all the time. Our words were very carefully monitored. Doris told a story in the elementary school with someone translating for her. And so it was a terrific experience, as was the rest of our stay there. But both those times, for Doris and me, I think brought us very close together. She's been with me the last few weeks as I've thought about those times that when we were able to be very intimate friends.
Thank you. My name is Ray Kramer, and I did not know Doris as well or as long as Ann did, but there were some experiences that were shared. When Ann and Doris were in prison, they went with 2 other friends. So the 4 of them had each other to rely on and kind of survive there. And survival was not difficult. I myself crossed the line subsequent to this and went to the same prison, but I went alone. I did not have the buddies with me. And Doris and Ann and Megan and another Ann made sure that I was coached properly. This is what you say, this is what you do. As Anne had taught me, there's only one thing you have to do, and that is follow the rules. Difficulty is that they change the rules without telling you. But Anne also said, oh, you're going to love it. There are no meetings. And if you do peace and justice work, that is a real enticing kind of thing. So I knew Doris in the latter portion of her life, let's say the last 20 years. And she always impressed me as being small and somewhat delicate, not frail, but she was not bombastic, and she wasn't kind of in your face. Her strength was much quieter. I envied her white hair, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. But Doris was always well-spoken, and certain words never crossed her lips. And she knew I would be going to Danbury, and this one counselor, the one that Anne recounted, had the issue with Doris. Doris pulled me aside before I went in, and she said, I would like you, if you feel comfortable, to give him a message. And I said, sure. You know, I didn't know what it would be about. Once I got there, I was there maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I realized what a wretch she was. And I decided, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun to give him the message. And I went to him and I said, I tried to remind him of the 4 protesters. And for a long while, they thought they were all nuns, even though they, you know, one of the 4 was a nun. But, and I reminded him of Doris, and he remembered, especially about the 50th anniversary. And I said, well, Doris asked me if I would give you a message. And he said, okay. And so don't listen if this is going to be not welcome. Doris said, please tell him to go fuck himself. Well, when she said that, my mouth fell open when she asked me to do it. And it was with great pleasure that I passed on the message. And there was nothing he could do to me because I wasn't saying it was from me, you know. So.
Okay, this is promise. It's very short, and I'm projecting towards the future, and I hope Alexa here believes me and helps me be brief. Okay, so this is a thank you to our oldest member of Eve's for the openness and the inclusiveness. Her practice, you know, is all about that with special education inclusiveness, and for me being able to. It just so happens that a member of Eve's is in Columbia right now, and I have the opportunity to go there soon, and so she's going to be in my mind. And she said that was one of the worst places ever. So I think it's gotten better. But I just want to project towards the future that I have very brief history with her, but the great impact that she had on me. Thank you. And thank you to Eve's.
I have 2 brief things. Another one is a prison story that Doris told herself when she spoke about that experience later. And it was also about testing the rules and breaking them a little bit. She experienced her birthday in prison, and evidently one of the rules was not to even acknowledge that. But Doris, they made an exception. The people handing out the food stuck little happy birthdays to her, and the guards looked the other way, evidently. So that was special to her. Doris did a lot of storytelling in front of a lot of audiences. But I challenged her to probably the toughest audience there is. I wrote a grant. I taught at Clary Middle School. And as part of that, she and Frances were asked to speak in front of an auditorium full of 8th graders, south side of Syracuse. And I also did on another kind of occasion. Very, very tough audience. They did a wonderful job. So Doris took on that challenge, and I thank her for it because it was a time when she hadn't spoken for a while. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I think maybe 1 or 2 more. So anybody have a burning? Yes, we We definitely want your story.
So when I was young, I knew Doris as a storyteller, and I experienced a great shock when I went to college and discovered her in one of my textbooks, titled Crossing the Line, where she and Dan were in the textbook talking about their experience to cross the line for the School of Americas. And it was a Catholic social justice class, and it was quite a wonderful experience to come back and talk to her about her time doing that and be like, I found you in my textbook.
Thank you. And the story of the birthday thing is in that textbook. Was there one other person? Okay.
My name is Ed Ryan, and when I first met Dan, it was because I was referred to them to remodel their kitchen because of Doris's stature. And Dan reminded me immediately that he had to stand in line in the Army behind a guy named Ed Ryan for years because it was, alphabetically in order that way. So I got the sense that Dan really didn't like me too much, and I didn't really know why. But Doris, one time after we were well along in raising the floor of the kitchen and lowering the cabinets and making it so she could function in there, we were having kind of a little argument about the curtains, or putting curtains on the kitchen window. And I said, well, Doris, I said, it's not like you're running around here naked, are you? She goes, oh, yes, I am. And I got this picture in my head, and I immediately agreed to put curtains on the window. But I understood later, after I got out to their camp and did some work out there that they had built with their own hands, that Dan could do all the things that I did when he was younger. And if my wife wants to make me really angry, if there's something not getting done at my house, she'll say, I'm going to call a contractor. And I know, so that was probably what Dan's struggle was with me, is that I was coming in doing stuff that he could do and had done himself. I loved them both. Thanks.
So I know there are many stories to share, and I do hope that you will share and talk about them during the reception after the service. At this time, I would like to invite the group say it for me. Evenings Beyond Eve. I always want to say All About Eve, which is a different thing. Evenings Beyond Eve.
My name is Joan Loveridge Sambamatsu. Doris Sage was a cherished member of our women's group, Evenings Beyond Eve. We, Donna Mahoney Rohde, Barbara Kwasnick, Vicki Skipper, Barbara Weingart, and myself, and I do see someone in the audience who actually originated Evenings Beyond Eve, Kathy Cardell. Welcome. We represent the whole group who contributed to this piece, adapted from We Remember Them. We will remember her for Doris.
And I would like to invite everyone to respond to each statement with the title of the piece, which is in your order of service, We Will Remember Her. When we see the oppressed and mistreated being helped by strong and dedicated advocates, we will remember her.
When we see a woman confidently create her own elegant style, we will remember her.
When we see a person go to prison for her beliefs,
We will remember her.
When we hear a talented storyteller and writer share her wisdom and mentor, as she did me, and mentor others, we will remember her.
When we take a bite of sushi and taste that soy sauce, rice, avocado, and cucumber, we will remember her.
When we march for Hiroshima Day, peace marches, pride, and other protests, we will remember her.
When we recall our daughter Carissa's critical first year of transition and how Doris welcomed her and affirmed her in her home, we will remember her.
At the opening of golden daffodils, whose delicate fragrance stirs our hearts to springtime, we will remember her.
When we have joy and wish to share it, we will remember her.
When we are fatigued and in need of strength, we will remember her.
For Doris is now a part of us as we remember her and her words. For as long as we live, she too will live.
I invite you now to look in your teal hymnal. That's the thin blue hymnal, which I may have to hunt down here in a minute. I invite you to please rise as your spirits and bodies allow, and join in singing Fire of Commitment, number 1028. This is sung with a lot of energy and vigor. For those of you who know it, please sing loud. For those of you who don't, I have a good, strong voice, and I will sing into the mic once I find a hymnal. Oh, never mind, got it. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living, bring us both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to a life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision come a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire Please be seated. Before we go into our benediction, just a reminder that the family will leave first during the recessional or the postlude. And then after the service, please join us down the right hall in the social hall for coffee and goodies and conversation and to meet and speak with the family. As we go into our benediction this day, I think of one of my final conversations with Doris and her great pride in her family and in this congregation. She was deeply proud of this congregation for its willingness to hire a transgender minister, as am I. She was also really hopeful that this congregation would vote to support Black Lives Matter, which it did this last Sunday. And so I see this congregation as living her legacy out loud and for real. And I do hope that we do more than just say that we support it, but that we will actually move that into action and to keep her spirit and her life forward and in front of us as we do the good work of this community. I want to thank the family for sharing with us their time and for letting us share our experiences of Doris with you. And so I invite you into this time of benediction to remember the life of Doris Sage and to keep in mind these words from the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, to keep fresh before us the moments of our highest resolve, that in good times or in tempest, in fair weather or in foul, we may not forget that to which our lives are committed. To keep fresh before us the moments of our highest resolve, for Doris lived a life of high resolve, in bad times and good, in tempests and in wonderful weather. She lived a life of resolve. May we live a life of resolve in this day and all the days to come. So may it be.